Hello everyone, my name is Johnny, and about 10 months ago I made a video called Becoming a Lineman Q&A, where I just answered a bunch of questions that people had asked me and tried to help people with the trade. I realized there's definitely a lot of information that I left out, and there's a lot of questions that I've gotten in the past year as well to try to cover. So today what I'm going to try to accomplish is tackling all of those questions, but more importantly, starting this video off by telling you exactly what I did to get into the trade, just so I can give you some background on who I am and maybe if it's a path that you can consider as well. This video is probably going to be a little lengthy, but I'll go ahead and put a timestamp right here, just so you know exactly what I'm talking about and when I'm talking about it. And yeah, I really appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and start now. If you guys like, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps me so much, and I really want to help as many people as I can. All right, let's do it. My name is Johnny. I'm 23 years old. I am from San Pedro, California, and I talked to a buddy of mine that I lost contact with about 2 years ago, and he told me that he was doing line work, and I had never heard of it before, but he kind of broke it down for me, and I thought it was super cool that he was able to travel and do everything that he was. Long story short, I looked into it a lot, and then I ended up taking the jump to go to Northwest Lineman College in Denton, Texas. This was in April of 2018, graduated there in August, and then I ended up going up to Butte, Montana, probably like the day or 2 days after I graduated, signed the ground books up there. There was like nobody on the books at the time, I think like 7 dudes. I got the call like 3 days later and had one of still today my favorite jobs up there that lasted about 4 to 5 months. After that, came back home, didn't have any work for about a month, 2 months. The same buddy that I talked to before told me that he was working out in Florida. He was like, hey, if you come out here, you can be a groundman and then call CellCat, which is the apprenticeship that covers Florida's jurisdiction, and see if they can bump you up from a groundman to an apprentice rather than waiting for CellCat to basically just pull a job for you. And I was like, huh, no shit, I didn't know you could do that. So I ended up packing all my stuff, took a road trip out to Florida with his girlfriend that was here at the time, and it was super fun. I ended up working there as a groundman for about 2 to 3 months. I had the, I don't know who you would call him, super call CellCat and explain to CellCat that they have a groundman here, they also need an apprentice, can we bump up a groundman to an apprentice? CellCat ended up getting back to my contractor at the time, and they said yes, and CellCat eventually let me in probably like a week or 2 after that, and I was then an indentured apprentice. It is a lengthy fucking process to get into an apprenticeship, I will tell you that. So if you even want to consider it, I'd definitely consider applying now. I know not all the apprenticeships have their overhead program open. I'm an overhead apprentice lineman. I don't know how it works for subs and undergrounds. I'm assuming it's kind of the same, but when I was in line school, I applied to CalNev, CellCat, and SWLCat, and Mountain States. I interviewed for all of them except for Southwest, and CellCat was the one that got to me the fastest, so I ended up going with them. It took me 9 months, I don't know if I just said that, it took me 9 months to get into CellCat, even being the fact that I had my contractor call and have them bump me up to an apprentice before CellCat even found work for me. There's people that apply and get a job within a month to 2 months. There's people like me that have to wait a year. When I interviewed, they told me that I scored in the 90th percentile, which is supposed to be like killer, but that's just how it works. Like there's no set time on when you'll get indentured. So that's why this next part, I'm gonna talk about the benefits of becoming a groundman before leading to that. Just because, number one, it's another form of income, and number two, you're really getting a feel for if the trade's for you, and you're learning a lot as well. So that's how I got started into it. I'm gonna hit that next part now. Okay, so starting off the questions, first one we got is it necessary to go to line school to become an apprentice, and or does it make it easier to land an apprenticeship? So no, it is not necessarily necessary to go to line school to become an apprentice. It depends on who you're applying for, but as far as the fact, does it make it easier to land an apprenticeship? 100%. So here in California, I have utilities like PG&E or SoCal Edison. If I wanted to join one of those utilities, yes, I would need to go to line school. When you're doing the application process online with them, they'll want you to have gone to an accredited line college. If you're wanting to apply to somewhere like an NJATC, which is CELCAT, CalNev, Albat, NEAT, Mountain States, Northwest, all the apprenticeships that kind of have to have you traveling and moving around, you don't need to go to line school for those. It definitely helps as far as where you're gonna rank, but no, it is not a requirement. How often do you travel? How many hours do you work of overtime? So this is gonna totally vary, but I'll kind of give you like a range so you understand. I have been an apprentice since April of last year, and I've only traveled twice. I worked in Bowling Green, Florida, and I worked in Birmingham, Alabama. I know a lot of other apprentices that have moved 20, 25 times in their 3.5 years of an apprentice, and I know some that have only moved 2. So it totally depends on, you know, what the work is like, and I guess, you know, your fate. It just really depends. But as far as how many hours of overtime do you work, your base hours are 40-hour work weeks. It depends on the job, how much you'll work. I've worked as little as 4 10s. I've worked as much as 7 12s. So it really just, you know, depends on what the job is. Personally, I like something in between. Like I like 6 10s, like that's an awesome schedule for me. But you don't get to choose that. They'll tell you, you know, when you get the job call, what it'll be. But 40 hours is your base work week, and then anything over that is considered overtime. I hope that helps. How often do you work on transmission lines, and do you work for a utility or contractor? I worked for contractors, and I will throughout my apprenticeship. As far as do you work on transmission lines, that's all I've actually worked on. Throughout my entire apprenticeship, I've only been put on transmission. So I've done distro as a groundman, but I have not done anything else as an apprentice other than transmission. Personally, I really like it. It's a lot less equipment than distro, but it's a lot like bigger and heavier shit. But all in all, I like transmission and distro. I know that I need to be well-rounded and learn everything, so I'm not opposed to, when I do get that call, to having to go to underground or sub, but I really, really do enjoy transmission for the time being. And I've met an awesome group of guys through transmission as well, especially on jobs where we got a lot of guys that come down from Canada and work with us as well, and they are just straight rigging gods. Yeah, it's a blast. So yeah. So the fastest route would be to sign the books as a groundman at a union at a state that hires faster than, say, California. The fastest route would be to sign the books as a groundman, yes. There's not per se a union that hires faster than another state. It just depends on the time that you're signing the books and what the workload looks like at the time. There's been times where California books have seemed like they're frozen, and there's been times where California books are just freaking flying to the point where they're almost walkthroughs. So if you really want to travel, I suggest basically hitting up as many ground books as you want in, you know, a certain range that you're willing to work. Or if it's something you just want to basically sign and wait on until you get that call, yeah, go sign those books, put your name on that list, make sure you re-sign those every month, and your local will explain to you how that works. And then from there, you can basically be working as a groundman as soon as possible while waiting to be indentured as an apprentice by an apprenticeship that you've hopefully applied for already. When you get the call for work, how long do you have to find a place to live? So this totally varies as well, but I'll kind of break down how this is kind of figured out. When you apply to an apprenticeship, they'll have where your home state is located, where your home address is. Say for example, I live in California right now, but say for example there's a job in Florida coming up. I would have gotten a call at least a few days to a week prior to that job to be able to have my time to make it out there and then get myself situated. I have a camper, so I can kind of set up shop wherever I'm at. Once you're in the trade and you know you're feeling it and you like it and everything, I totally recommend it. It's a lot cheaper, and for the most part you can kind of find a place anywhere. Sure, sometimes if you're super isolated you'll have to be like 30 minutes, an hour out, but totally recommend it. As far as like if you're in, you know, somewhere closer to where your home base is and there's a job like, you know, an hour, 2 hours from you, they'll usually call you and give you like a day, 2 days notice. So breaking it down, the shortest I've seen is about a day, 2 days. The longest for me, which is super generous, has been about 2 to 3 weeks. How much is the tuition cost? It depends on the line school. Northwest Lineman College was about 15 to 16,000 for the tuition, and then you're gonna have to cover in housing as well. All in all, I ended up paying like 20 grand for the 16 weeks I was at line school. Is there any tests you have to pass to get into a school of linemen? No. The only test that they're gonna have you take to, I guess, get into the school is a drug test, and those are random. Some people get them, some people don't. So I don't really know how they gauge that. I'm sure you can kind of figure that out, but yeah. What are the typical hours? Typical hours, your normal work week is based off of 4/10s, so 40 hours a week. And then it just depends after that on, you know, the urgency of the job and what they're wanting to work. Sometimes it'll be 4/10s, 5/10s, 6/10s, 7/10s, anywhere around there, but it's usually anywhere between 40 to, I'm gonna say, 70 hours generally. It never gets lower than 40 unless you get like rained out, and that's another topic in itself. Or it never really gets over 70 unless it's a super serious job or you're on storm. Did you relocate to find an employer, or did you find a local city or employer? I hope my prior little intro answered that question for you. How much electrical did you know before you got into this career? Zero, literally nothing. I worked at an auto shop before that my dad owned, so I worked on cars. I guess you can consider some of that electrical, but generally nothing that applies to the trade. So I wouldn't be concerned or, you know, look down on yourself in any form of way for not having any prior knowledge getting into this. In all aspects of life, you should never be afraid of asking questions. That's how we all learn, so. Yeah. If you went to school and after, how much is your average starting pay for apprentice? So this 100% varies by state as well. I think the lowest that I've seen it is in places like Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. I'm pretty sure they're right around like $19, $20 an hour as of this year. But then in states like California, I think we're around 36 an hour for first steps. Don't quote me, it's right around that range though. It totally varies by state. Is this job always on demand or does it fluctuate? So, this is a question that I just recently kind of figured out the answer to. There's always gonna be a demand to keep the lights on, like clearly we get that. But it does fluctuate. It fluctuates for everybody, for groundmen, for apprentices, for operators, and for JLs. If you're willing to travel to find some work, generally you'll always have a job. But if you want a home base, there's always going to be those times where you kind of have a layoff period. You should be doing okay financially enough to be able to take that layoff period as long as you're pretty conservative with your money. But I always tell everybody, try to have the means to live very comfortably off of 40-hour work weeks, because not only will that help you in the long run, but there's going to be those times where you are laid off as well. And I don't want to see anybody in a fucky situation, you know? So yeah. I'm interested in line work and I'm graduating high school this year and was wondering if you were afraid of heights when you started. I know this is probably the most asked question. I'm not like deathly afraid of heights, but I assume the more you climb, the easier it gets. I'm pretty sure everybody has the same question as you. I did as well. Was I afraid of heights? No, but it was definitely a question. I was in that boat where I just had left home and paid essentially 20 grand to go to a line school, and I was like, fuck. I'm in deep now, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to climb this pole because I may be scared too, you know? But thankfully I wasn't. They definitely taught you super fast. I'm super happy that I ended up doing it that way. Like obviously you're gonna be sketched, you know, the few first times that you do it, but just like anything else, you get super comfortable with it. So I wouldn't be worried about that at all. I'm totally fine climbing anything now, and quite honestly, I do really enjoy climbing more than bucket work, and any opportunity I do have, I'll get my journeyman that bucket every time if that means I can assist him in my gaps. So yeah. Hey Johnny, I'm still a bit confused by how to start your journey to become a lineman. I recently got out of USMC with an honorable discharge. I have a friend who's in the trade and he suggested I get my CDL and then go apply to Local 47. I'm from San Diego, California, and I am willing to move out of the state if it means being hired. He also told me you do not need to go to a lineman college, which sounds off to me. Hey Luis, I hope I said your name right. Thank you so much for your service, man. I really appreciate that. Your buddy is definitely right. If you're looking to go the route, which you just kind of said, which is traveling. So if, I know this comment is 3 months old, so sorry dude, but if you have your CDL by now, if you don't, please get it. Everybody, please get it. It's pretty much mandatory if you want to top out. You can go sign as many places as you can and try to get, you know, a job call as quick as you can. I would sign 47 here. I'd sign 1245 up north. And then if you're willing to go around Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, you know, any of those states in that circumference, or if you're willing to go further, man. Sign as many as you want, you know? That's the best way to do it. It's the best way to get a call quick. Just make sure when you get one of those calls that you do the kind thing and take your name off of the other lists. That way, there's no wishy-washy shit going on there and somebody else can get that call as soon as possible. I have my CDLA already and some electrical experience. How can I get into an apprentice program? It totally depends on where you want to work. If you want to work at home, you can check home companies for you, utilities, municipalities, all that, and see what the hiring process is for them. Or if you're wanting to travel and do an NJATC like I am, you can use, and I'll actually put them like right here too so you guys have them, but a plethora. There's Selcat, Mountain States, Northwest, CalMev. I'll put all of them right there. And those are the NJATCs where you can actually travel, and they have an application process online. And there's a few of them that only open up at certain times throughout the year, but generally most of them do stay open. Just keep your eyes peeled on that list, and when you see the overhead application program open, go ahead and submit an application with them. Sometimes they'll want like $5, $10 for the application. Just fucking pay it, dude, and wait to hear back. And that's probably the quickest way to become an apprentice. If you want to be working in the meantime, you can always go the groundman route as well, but definitely just apply for all those apprenticeships, you know, as soon as possible, just so that way, you know, you're not waiting forever. Why are you going through Selcat if you live in California? Are you one of the people that went somewhere that had an opening which caused them to make a 1-year minimum requirement for residency to get into the program? Essentially, when you go to apply to a program that wants you to be a resident in their jurisdiction, they're gonna want an address in that jurisdiction. I had an address in that jurisdiction, even though California is my home base. But as long as you can show some form of way that you live in their jurisdiction, you can apply to their apprenticeship. I hope you can understand what I'm getting at there. And as far as why I'm in Selcat, it's just because it's the quickest program that got back to me. I did not want to wait. I'm not for that. I just want to go, learn, get this shit done, and come back to California and stay here. So obviously it would have been awesome, you know, if I could have got picked up by CalMev, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and I kind of just go with the flow. And I'm happy that I did, because I really enjoy traveling, and even though there's some spots that might be sketch and that I don't really like the most, I can say that I did it, and it's an experience in itself. You know, I'm sure when I top out, there's a lot of these places that I won't go back to, but that's okay. It's just, you know, open up your mind to new things. So I'm all for it, man. But I think the best way to look at it is, if you're gonna join this trade, you know, just jump in, and you got to learn to surrender, because essentially you're basically selling yourself to an apprenticeship for the next 3 years, and it's hard to make plans around shit, you know? Like, even I'm laid off right now, and it's not like I can go and like make an appointment or go on vacation or something, you know, without possibly getting a call. So sometimes it's kind of bummer, but it's just part of the process. Everyone's got to do their time, and it could be a hell of a lot worse. I'm super thankful for the position that I'm in, so it's all good, man. I live in Billings, Montana right now, and I'm thinking about going to lineman school in Texas. Where in Montana are you? The reason why I'm asking is because I was wondering if you recommend getting hand-on training before attending school, so I know the basics, or just to go to the school even though I know nothing about it. Don't even worry about getting prior, you know, knowledge going to school. That's all what school is for. I would say if, you know, you were going to an actual job starting as a groundman without graduating a line school, yeah, it's good to probably make yourself familiar with some shit. I know it's hard to learn certain stuff, so just YouTubing random videos like this, you know, regarding the trade, just to kind of understand. But if you're going to school, man, don't even worry about it. You're paying for that shit. They'll know exactly what to teach you, and everybody pretty much comes in with the same perspective to begin with. Would I survive the trade if I have lower back issues? 10 years, maybe. I'm sorry about that, Oscar. That does suck. I would say yes. I'm sure there's some times where it's gonna fucking suck, but generally, for the most part, everybody in this trade ends up pulling something or fucking up some form of their body at some point. I just recommend, man, like, you just watch yourself. Obviously, you clearly know that, but not, you know, overworking yourself. If there's something that can be, you know, picked up with a machine, use the machine. Don't try to, you know, be that dude that's like, I am the equipment, and then fuck yourself up. So I'm a huge advocate for that, and yeah, but all in all, like, I wouldn't close the door, man. I would say go for it, and if it's something you don't think is gonna work out, walk away. But I would really like to see you just try. I think that would be awesome. How much does an apprentice make, or is it unpaid? So this is another state-specific question, but as long as you're employed year-round, I'm gonna say, at a minimum of 410s, I think the lowest you can go is around 50, 60,000, and the highest is somewhere near 100. Once again, it just depends where you're working at. You could be in Arkansas, or you can be in California. It just depends. By the way, I'm not trying to talk trash about Arkansas at all. I'm just trying to get facts here, guys. Hey man, I was watching your YouTube Q&A. I was wondering, is the math for the lineman hard, and do you use it a lot? Also, is the test to join the local hard? So, the math for like bookwork that I'm currently doing in the apprenticeship, yeah, some of it could definitely be difficult, but I wouldn't let that be a factor to, you know, deter you away from anything. I think it's difficult for everybody, and it's just a learning curve we all have to go through. There's certain points where you will use it. I don't want to say it's useless, because it's totally not. Just like anything else, you'll learn it, you'll get it. Don't let that, you know, veer you off from this. So those are basically all the questions that were all kind of unique and individual. I'm going to end this video with two ones that were kind of most requested. First being, is line school worth it? So I'm going to kind of address this in little pieces so you understand where I'm coming from here. But what you need to understand before you go to line school is where you want to work. Do you want to travel throughout the US? Do you want to stay home? Do you want to work for a company that provides you, or that requires you to go to a line school? If that's a yes, then you have to go 100%. If not, and you can apply somewhere that does not require you to go to a line school, I would say no. and I'm gonna break this down right now. Number one, it's generally gonna be around $16,000 to $18,000 just for the tuition and the tools alone. I'm not saying that they're overcharging you by any point. They all put a lot of work into teaching you everything. It's just a matter of, that's some coin. Number two, the problem is that you learn so much information in such a short amount of time. By the time you actually graduate and become a groundman, you're digging holes, you're setting poles. You're not using theory and all the immense amount of OSHA bylaws and all this stuff that you kind of just learned. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's hard to retain all this information that you just learned if you're not practicing it day by day. And the last and final question that I get the most is, how can I just get started in this trade right away? And what I would recommend to do is to go on Google and find the locals in the states that you're willing to work out of. Call them up, say that, my name is so-and-so, I'm looking to sign the ground books. How many people do you have on the books? What's required, if anything? Some require a CDL, some don't. And go and sign those books. Yes, it's going to be a waiting game, but if you apply for apprenticeship, it's going to be, even longer. So if you can just get that out of the way, go sign those books and be doing what you're normally doing up until you get that call, and then go out and work. I think that's the best way to do it. I think it's a great way to make money prior to starting your apprenticeship. I think it's a great way to get experience prior to starting your apprenticeship. And I think it's a great way to stay out of debt by not going to a line school prior to your apprenticeship, if it's something that you're applying to that does not require a line school. So guys, that pretty much answers everything. If you like this, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps me by hopefully getting a bigger audience and helping as many people as we can. I would love to grow like a little community here. That way, as we all progress in life, we all have each other to, fall back on or communicate with should we ever need to. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I will definitely see you guys on the next one. Love you guys, stay safe, later.